Taylor Swift. Just saying her name sparks endless debate, admiration, and sometimes even controversy. She's not just one of the biggest pop stars in history, she's a phenomenon. From her earliest days strumming a guitar in Nashville to her stadium-shaking Eras tour, Swift has built an empire that transcends music. But here's the thing, behind the glitter, behind the awards, and behind the headlines, there are stories that very few people actually know. Secrets that shaped her art, viral moments that changed the way the world sees her, and controversies that almost derailed her career. What if I told you that some of her most iconic songs are coded messages, hiding feuds, heartbreaks, and even revenge? What if the viral Taylor Swift moments you've seen on your feed were only scratching the surface of a far deeper story? Today, we're peeling back the curtain. This isn't just another biography. This is Swift Uncovered, the untold viral stories, hidden truths, and mysterious secrets that make Taylor not just a pop star, but a legend. Stay tuned, because by the end, you'll never listen to a Taylor Swift song the same way again. Taylor Swift. Just saying her name sparks endless debate, admiration, and sometimes even controversy. She's not just one of the biggest pop stars in history, she's a phenomenon. From her earliest days strumming a guitar in Nashville to her stadium-shaking Eras tour, Swift has built an empire that transcends music. But here's the thing, behind the glitter, behind the awards, and behind the headlines, there are stories that very few people actually know. Secrets that shaped her art, viral moments that changed the way the world sees her, and controversies that almost derailed her career. What if I told you that some of her most iconic songs are coded messages, hiding feuds, heartbreaks, and even revenge? What if the viral Taylor Swift moments you've seen on your feed were only scratching the surface of a far deeper story? The Nashville Dream. Taylor's story starts with an almost cinematic leap of faith. At just 14 years old, she convinced her parents to move from Pennsylvania to Nashville, Tennessee, the heart of country music. Imagine being that young and so sure of your destiny that you uproot your entire life just to chase it. Most kids her age were worrying about homework and weekend plans. Taylor was chasing record labels. She carried demo CDs door to door, literally handing them out to executives who brushed her off, saying she was too young. But rejection didn't break her spirit. Instead, it sharpened her ambition. Eventually, she signed with Big Machine Records, and suddenly, the small-town girl was writing songs that spoke to millions. But even in those early years, the seeds of something bigger were being planted. She wasn't just writing catchy country tunes, she was telling stories. Real stories, with names, places, and emotions that listeners couldn't ignore. It was authentic, and that authenticity would become her greatest weapon in an industry full of manufactured personas. The Kanye moment. It was 2009. The MTV Video Music Awards. Taylor, just 19 years old, had won Best Female Video for You Belong With Me. She walked up, stunned, clutching her award, ready to give her acceptance speech. And then it happened. Kanye West stormed the stage, grabbed the mic, and delivered one of the most infamous lines in pop culture history. "I'ma let you finish," but the world froze. Taylor stood there, shocked, humiliated, her big moment stolen on live television. That single moment transformed her. Overnight, she wasn't just the girl with country roots. She was at the center of a viral cultural storm. What followed was years of drama, reconciliations, fallouts, diss tracks, and tabloid wars. Kanye and Taylor's feud became the soundtrack of an era. But for Taylor, it wasn't just about a stolen speech. It was a crash course in fame, power, and survival in an industry where narratives could be twisted in seconds. Hidden messages in the music. If you've ever been a Swiftie, you know Taylor doesn't just write songs, she writes puzzles. Hidden messages, Easter eggs, cryptic liner notes. From her earliest albums, she was embedding secret codes in capitalized letters of lyric booklets, leaving fans to piece together names and timelines of her relationships. It wasn't just fun. It was revolutionary. Suddenly, listeners weren't passive fans. They were detectives. Every lyric became a clue, every album a storybook of her life. All Too Well, Dear John, style. These weren't just songs. They were personal confessions written in plain sight. And here's the genius. By turning her pain and love into riddles, Taylor created one of the most interactive relationships between an artist and her audience. Fans weren't just listening, they were participating. But this strategy also came with risk. The more Taylor revealed through her music, the more the world speculated about her private life. Every heartbreak, every feud, every whisper became a headline. The Squad era. 1989 drops, and Taylor reinvents herself from country darling to full-blown pop icon. Alongside the chart-topping hits, a new phenomenon emerges, the Squad. Taylor surrounded herself with supermodels, actresses, and fellow artists, projecting an image of power, unity, and friendship. From red carpets to Instagram posts, the Squad was everywhere. It was glamorous, aspirational, and viral. People couldn't stop talking about it. Taylor wasn't just selling music, she was selling a lifestyle. But as with many viral moments, the shine didn't last. Critics called it elitist. Others claimed it alienated fans who couldn't relate. Feuds even began brewing within the Squad itself, with former members hinting at cracks behind the polished selfies. The Squad era was a turning point. For Taylor, it was proof of her cultural dominance, but also a lesson in how quickly public opinion can shift. The same power that builds you up can tear you down in an instant. The Reputation rebirth. After feuds with Kanye, Kim Kardashian, and rumors of being a snake, Taylor disappeared. For nearly a year, she vanished from the spotlight, her social media wiped clean. Then, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, she returned with Reputation. Gone was the country sweetheart. Gone was the bubbly pop star. In her place stood a darker, sharper Taylor, spitting venom and reclaiming control of her narrative. Songs like Look What You Made Me Do weren't subtle. They were declarations of war against the media, her enemies, and anyone who tried to define her story. The Reputation era wasn't just about music. It was performance art. Black snakes slithered across her visuals, stadium tours turned into theatrical spectacles of revenge, and Taylor leaned into the villain role people had painted for her. And yet, beneath the sharp edges, there was still vulnerability. Songs like Delicate showed that even as she wore armor, she craved connection and love. Lover and A Softer Return. After the darkness of Reputation, Taylor pivoted again. In 2019, she released Lover, a pastel-soaked love letter to romance, hope, and second chances. Gone were the snakes and shadows. In their place, rainbows, hearts, and joy. It was a reminder that Taylor wasn't trapped by any single identity. She could be fierce one era and tender the next. The album celebrated both her romantic relationship with Joe Alwyn and her newfound independence after leaving Big Machine Records. But Lover wasn't just about love songs. It was political. Taylor used her platform to speak out more openly than ever before, addressing LGBTQ+ rights and You Need to Calm Down and power struggles in The Man. For an artist often accused of playing it safe, Lover marked a new chapter of fearlessness. Folklore and Evermore, the lockdown legends. The world shuts down. Concerts canceled.
Tour paused.
But Taylor? She writes. And what emerges are two surprise albums, Folklore and Evermore. These weren't the pop anthems of 1989 or the spectacle of Reputation. They were quiet, haunting, indie folk stories filled with characters, narratives, and emotions that felt timeless. Songs like Cardigan and Exile weren't just hits, they were lifelines for fans trapped in uncertainty. Taylor shifted from autobiographical songwriting to storytelling, proving her pen was as powerful as ever. She wrote about love triangles, heartbreaks, and folklore-like tales, blending imagination with reality. It wasn't about viral feuds or pop charts this time.
It was about artistry.
And yet, these albums went viral in their own way. Critics hailed them as some of her best work. Fans dissected every lyric, every hidden metaphor, every Easter egg. Even in isolation, Taylor managed to unite millions through music. The Eras Tour phenomenon. By 2023, Taylor had a decade and a half of hits behind her. Instead of just touring a single album, she gave fans the ultimate gift, the Eras Tour, a 3-hour, multi-act journey through every stage of her career. It wasn't just a concert. It was history. Stadiums sold out in minutes. Tickets crashed websites. Fans flew across the world just to witness it. And on social media, every performance clip went instantly viral. The Eras Tour wasn't just about nostalgia. It was about showing her evolution, from the teenage dreamer to the pop powerhouse to the indie storyteller. Each era came alive with dazzling visuals, elaborate costumes, and intimate moments. For many, it felt like Taylor had cracked the code of modern stardom. She wasn't just selling music, she was curating an experience. And in an era of fleeting attention spans, she created something unforgettable, something that couldn't be scrolled past.
Re-recording the past.
Few artists have ever pulled off what Taylor did with her, Taylor's version re-recordings. After losing the masters of her first 6 albums to Scooter Braun's acquisition of Big Machine Records, Taylor decided to fight back, not in court, but in the studio. She re-recorded every song, every note, reclaiming ownership of her life's work. At first, skeptics doubted it would succeed.
But then,
fans rallied. Streaming numbers skyrocketed. Old albums were reborn with new life. It wasn't just about nostalgia. It was about power. Taylor proved that artists didn't have to be at the mercy of contracts and corporations. She weaponized her fan base, turned business into art, and rewrote the rules of the industry. The re-recordings weren't just a business move, they were a cultural movement. Suddenly, fans were chanting Taylor's version like a badge of honor. Songs written in her teens now resonated with the maturity of her 30s. Why Taylor's story still matters. So, after all the viral feuds, coded lyrics, iconic tours, and reinventions, why does Taylor Swift's story still matter today? Because she's more than an artist. She's a mirror. Her songs reflect heartbreak, ambition, failure, rebirth, emotions every person understands. She's a reminder that vulnerability and strength can exist side by side. Her viral moments may dominate headlines, but her deeper story is about resilience. About a teenager who turned rejection into superstardom. About a woman who turned public humiliation into anthems. About an artist who turned stolen masters into an industry-shaking revolution. Taylor Swift isn't just uncovering secrets in her songs. She's teaching us something bigger. That reinvention is survival and authenticity is power. That's why, decades from now, people won't just remember the music. They'll remember the mythology, the secrets, the viral moments, and the woman who turned her life into art. Taylor Swift isn't just a superstar. She's a story, one that's still being written.